Hello and welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about Star Wars Edge of the Empire by Fantasy Flight Games. Now, the cover of this game is one of my favorite covers in gaming. As you can see, it is great on several levels. We've got several iconic images from the Star Wars franchise here. We've got the Millennium Falcon, we've got Han Solo, and Chewbacca. And this kind of gives you a prelude to what's inside of the book. And of course, on the back, we have another iconic image, Slave One. So these images really set up for what's inside of this book to begin with, which is great. Now, a lot of people wonder if this is what the heck is with this book? This is one of 3 core rule books that Fantasy Flight is doing for Star Wars. Now, the reason they did this, if I remember correctly, is because they asked people what they wanted to see out of Star Wars, and they ended up with 3 responses, which was they wanted to see the Han Solos and the Boba Fett's, the Outer Rim people that were trying to break free of the Empire via criminal activity. They talked about the rebellion itself and Force users. So instead of trying to cram what everybody wanted into one book, Fantasy Flight broke it into 3 books. And Edge of the Empire is the criminal, the underworld book. This includes a lot of great things on this subject too. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the system that the Edge of the Empire uses. In fact, that Age of Rebellion and Force and Destiny will use the same way, is their narrative game style, which has been featured in Warhammer, their Warhammer game. Basically what's going on is you're rolling several sets of dice with symbols on them. These symbols are triumph, advantage, and success. There are negative dice, which include failure, disadvantage, and a really bad one that I can't remember the name of right now. Oh well. Now, when one rolls this, they take into consideration, a triumph will be dismay. Sorry, it's a dismay. A triumph will negate a dismay, and vice versa. A success will negate a failure. A failure will negate a success. Disadvantage negates an advantage. Now, what happens is you will say, roll on something. You're a pilot, we'll say, and you want to try and outrun an Imperial battleship. Now, you'll roll on, say, 3 particular dice, which are 8-sided. They're the purple dice. Now, these are negative dice, and 3 is hard difficulty. And you'll take your dice pool, which is, of course, offset by how you build your character, and you will roll. Now, if you end up with more good dice than bad dice, obviously things go your way. But this is not always the case, as sometimes bad things will happen. Maybe you get all negatives. The Empire catches you. You've been captured. Maybe something weirder happens. You got really good rolls to succeed your hyper jump, but you had a bunch of disadvantages. So some bad luck occurs with your great success. Yeah, you jumped into hyperspace, but you have nowhere near where you wanted to be. And of course, same thing could happen in the negative. Yeah, the Empire's caught you, but guess what? They figured you were only one dude with nothing on it, and there's an entire team here. You guys can shoot your way out or make a plan in time to escape. Now, this is really well for veteran role players, of course, that really like to tell a narrative story. And it really brings in new guys because it really lets them run wild with their imagination. Because you can start out with something very simple as a game master. There's a hard roll, they roll, wow, I got a lot of successes. Well, you can do this. And the player then becomes very descriptive with their action, which of course helps you out if you're a game master. Now, when you build a character, you're going to have several things that you see very, very first. They're going to talk about motivations and obligations. Now, in my opinion, this came a little early in character creation and probably could have waited until they explained job classes. But since they talk about them first, I will talk about them first as well. Obligations and motivations are what drive your character. Now, some characters have weird obligations. I personally play a hired gun mercenary whose obligation is droid rights. And one of his motivations is that he's a deserter. Now, motivation, of course, is your personal background. Now, it tells you you can roll random or pick one. Personally, I as a GM always recommend that you pick one. It's a lot easier to let somebody build their character with something they have in mind, or to let them have that hands-on feeling. If you're a player that really likes random rolls, go for it. You'll probably end up with something you really like. That's how I ended up with droid rights. Now, as it comes to building a character, this is a point-based system where you spend the experience you earn. And of course, each race comes with a certain amount of experience. Now, since each race comes with a certain amount of experience, you're probably wondering, well, how much is it? Well, I'm not going to tell you about that too much because, well, it's a little detailed. And I can say this, it is worth it, and you do get bonus XP depending on how you set your character up too. So when you go to initial build, you'll have a good amount of XP to spend, and it'll always be based on how you want to build it. Now, speaking of races, let's get into them. Our first race is the Bothans. These are the cat-like race, and if you know your Star Wars history, a lot of them died to get you this information. A lot of them. And we had no idea what a Bothan was for a long time. Really, you didn't. These cat-like people are very into the politics of the Empire and the galaxy of itself. They're the real ones you go to pretty much when you want deep info. And they get it. Because to them, knowledge is power. Our next race is the droids. Yep, droids. You can play C-3PO if you want, R2-D2. Those models are included, including make your own models. So your droid doesn't have to be something that's that classical Star Wars. You could take an old model and build it up as you want. But you've got to spend your experience wisely to get the attributes you want on a droid. They start with all ones. Next race is the Gand. This is an insectoid race. You've seen them in the Cantina in New Hope. They tend to wear a respirator because they can't breathe normal air like the rest of the species of the galaxy. It's very weird, but they're actually very cool, and that they get several racial bonuses that go with them. Of course, though, they have an awkward scent. But our next race is probably the best one in the galaxy, and they're seen everywhere. Humans. They're pretty average, and humans actually get a couple bonus things like skills, which is very useful in this game. Of course, when you talk about a human, you usually come to mind in New Hope that cantina scene where Greedo sits down. And yes, you can be a Rodian in this. The problem with being a Rodian, in my opinion, is that you smell like fish. Trandoshans can be found in this game. Now, you might wonder what a Trandoshan is. A lot of people do. If you know Star Wars, you're probably like, why are you even bothering explaining a Trandoshan? Well, for those of you who know Star Wars, let me explain to those that don't. Trandoshans are actually a lizard-like race, and they come from a society that values strength. Of course, they got into a war with the Wookiees, and the Wookiees and them seem to have hated each other ever since. Now, if you want to see a Trandoshan, they can be seen in the Cantina scene. They're a weird-looking lizard in the Cantina scene, but you can also see them in Empire Strikes Back when Darth Vader is walking down the Destroyer's gangway with the bounty hunters that include Boba Fett. It's the one big one that looks kind of like a T-Rex head, you know. Very mean. Got the long, kind of like a single-digit hand. Anyway. Next race is Twi'leks. Twi'leks. Do I need to explain them? We know them. They're really strong with the Force. At least that's what we're led to believe. And they're found everywhere. One of them was Jabba the Hutt's emissary in Return of the Jedi. And the last race that you can find in Edge of the Empire is the Wookiees. Where would any Star Wars game be without a Wookiee, right? Everybody loves the fuzzy good guys. Now, each one of these races come with their own unique abilities that offset them. But no one race is actually better than another. Because again, you're based upon how you spend your experience. And each race has different attributes. Now, your attributes can only be raised once in this game. Not one time, but only once. And that's at character creation. And you have to spend experience points to do so. So if you're a droid and you start with 1 on all of your attributes across the board, you've got to spend your experience to up them. So you want to be a strong droid. I want my attribute to be a 3. Well, that means you have to spend 20 points to go to 2, and then another 30 points to get to 3. So to get to that 3, you just spent 50 experience points. And the typical character usually doesn't get more than about 100 to 120. Humans tend to end up with the most. Now that should tell you something there. So really, when you make this character, you've got to think wisely. Now, your job classes, some of them may have a skill in them or a talent called dedication, which will let you up one of your attributes 1. This is awesome, especially in a game where you have to spend a lot of experience to up an attribute to begin with. And since I'm on the point of job classes, let's talk about them. This game has several job classes. And each one has its own specialization. Now, there are job classes like Bounty Hunter. The Bounty Hunter has several specializations, 3. Everyone has 3 in this one. The first one is Assassin. This is the tool of death, politics, anything else. They put a price on somebody's head, and an assassin fulfills that price. Our next one is the Gadgeteer. Now, our Gadgeteers are pretty iconic, believe it or not. This is Boba Fett, in a sense. This is the character that can, in any situation, become a one-man army for a time. They rely on all kinds of high-tech gear and advanced technologies to get them out of tough situations and to get their mark successfully. These ones are the ones that you see with flamethrower wrists and jetpacks that have missiles. And our last one is the Survivalist. Now, this bounty hunter is much different than the others. This is the one that specializes in going into the weirdest places in the outer rims in the galaxy. So the guy that you'll see actually crawl into a Sarlacc's pit to find his target. They're experts at tracking and hunting in the most exotic and strangest places. Next job class is the Colonist. Now, Colonist is pretty straight to its name. These are the people that inhabit the outer rims or go to inhabit them. They may come from the core worlds and come out. Now, their specializations are unique in that these are the kind of characters that negotiate, do well things. These are, well, your support classes. That includes the Doctor. Yeah, Doctor. As in you can patch people up, do surgeries, maybe even add cybernetic arms. Who knows? You're a doctor. You can be found useful on all parts of the Outer Rim and to an adventuring party. The next one is the Politico. Now, the Politico is our leader. Now, they can boost their player characters by giving them motivational speeches, noticing things in time. They can also negotiate deals with enemies, trick the Empire into believing that you're just good guys. Maybe even get a local village to help you fight a criminal gang lord, like a Hutt. And the last one is the Scholar. These are the wisest men that you're going to find out in the Outer Rims. These are the ones that have studied things for years on years, and they're the ones that usually have the way of convincing others to help them. Next job class is Explorer. Now, the Explorers are their namesake. They go out and they just chart. The Galactic Empire may hire them out. The galaxy just may find them there. They're everywhere. Their specializations include Fringer. Now, the Fringer is really a jack of all trades. He's kind of your vagabond that you find out there on the galaxy's planets and whatnot. Hey, this month I'm just going to work on a moisture farm and make some money. Hey, look, these adventuring guys need a cook. I'll join up with them. Next one is a Scout. These people actually go out. They look for paths, inhabitable places, dangerous flora and fauna. They really they're the ones that are out there like you would expect a Scout to be. And the last one is the Trader. The Trader is the guy that wants to make a buck. He's looking to make new markets, open up deals that need to be made. Hey, look, these monkey people here need Gems and jewels and baubles. Well, hey, guess what? I've got gems and jewels and baubles, and I can trade them for that finely made art right there. You know, they're looking to make a buck, and they really do it well with the party. They can end up boosting the party really well to have extra money, to be able to get a little bit more when they sell something, and so forth. Next class is the hired guns. These are your fighter characters, characters designed for combat. They include the bodyguard. Maybe the politico in the group doesn't really got himself geared toward fighting, and he knows that he's going to get his ass kicked in the first fight. Somebody makes a bodyguard and he hires him out. And a bodyguard is essentially that they are geared to protect people while dealing massive damage. Next class is the marauder. The marauder is a melee combat expert. They get in the fray and they are just throwing blades and fists and axes everywhere. They do not mess around. Lastly, the merc soldier. And the mercenary soldier is probably the closest to a real soldier. As the name implies, at some point they were either professionally trained or were part of an army. They have the ability to both lead and fight. So they are a rare combo inside of something like the hired guns. Not only can they kick ass, take names, but they can keep everybody in line and fighting well to do so. Our next job class, smugglers. This is right, the Han Solos of the universe. Their specializations in this job class include the pilot, those that fly the ships anywhere they feel like it. You might have got that ship from a bet. You might actually owe a hut for it, and this is why you fly around smuggling spice everywhere. Who knows? But you're damn good at what you do. Next is the scoundrel. Now, the scoundrel is their namesake. They're grifters, gunslingers, barroom brawlers, con men. They got their fingers in a little bit of everything, but not a lot. And lastly, the thief. Or the scoundrel is your grifter, your quick-talking guy moving cups around to pick your pocket. The thief is your real cat burglar types. The ones that are looking to break into the banks, steal millions from huts, and anything else they can get their hands on. Our last job class is the technician. Now, the technician always is somebody that likes to work or uses technology to their advantage. Their specializations include the mechanic, who can build things. We're not just talking maintain and repair them, but design and create his own inventions. Guess what? You've just created a new hyperdrive or a new gun. That's awesome. Gotta love it. The next specialization is the outlaw tech. The outlaw tech takes technology and pushes it beyond its boundaries and makes it better. They're the ones that take, say, Stormtrooper's body armor and make it so it has cloaking technology on it. And lastly is the slicer. The slicer is the hacker. And in a setting like Star Wars, there's nobody more dangerous than a hacker. Somebody that can manipulate and use technology against you. I have found in games on more than one occasion the slicer is just ridiculously awesome to have on your side. And that's the job classes. They're really awesome. Each one complements the other ones pretty well. So no one seems to take precedence. Now there is one last job class. And really, it's kind of a given in a Star Wars setting. And this is the Force Adept. Now the Force Adept is the only character that can manipulate the Force. Their talents and their skills are based on the Force. Now they're not very powerful. But this is to be thought of because you're not professionally trained. Nobody has taken you under the wing and you haven't had time to develop your powers. You might have been a Padawan that survived Order 66. And I do mean Padawan. Or maybe even a youngling. Whatever the case is on the character, you're not that well versed in how to control the Force. But you know you can use it. Which in the Galactic Empire is a blessing and a dangerous thing. Because people will turn you over for the bounty on Force users' heads. Now, in this game, there are things called skills. Now, your skills are pretty cool. They include things like ranged, heavy, and light. You might go, what does that mean? Well, light means pistols, heavy means rifles, and other such long-barreled blasters or slug throwers. And it's a single skill. It covers a broad general area. And they've got a good amount of them. And what you do is you put ranks into them using your experience points. Now, for each one you add, you upgrade one of your good dice in your dice pool. So where the purple dice, which was an 8-sided dice, was the bad dice, your abilities will determine how many, your ability stats will determine how many good dice you have. So it's something like the ranged ones, which use your agility skill, and you have an agility of 2, you would have 2 green dice versus the hard roll of 3 purple dice. But you've put 2 ranks into it. So now you've upgraded to 2 good 12-sided dice, which are yellow. And you would roll them against your bad dice. And of course, since yellow dice seem to have more of the good things on them versus the bad, you might be able to outbeat your bad dice. Anyway, you would add this up and see how things go. And each skill is pretty broad and covers a good general area so that you really know what it covers, even though it covers a broad area. In Edge of the Empire, they also include gears, weapons, vehicles, very common to Star Wars. And it's really well thought out and good, including things like weapons modifications and armor modifications. Things like a ketosis weave, which can actually stop a lightsaber. Lightsabers can also be found in this book for those that want to play Force Adept. But in this book, they are rare. Extremely rare. And again, using a lightsaber can draw unwanted attention and bring the Empire down on you and your group. So those that go to play Force Sensitives, don't try to start yourself out with a lightsaber is my recommendation. If you want to and your GM's fine with it, go right ahead. My recommendation, don't. Start out slowly and earn it. If you're really, really into the Force, play your Force Adept in this one. Get them up. Wait for Force and Destiny to come out and buy it, and you'll really appreciate that you waited. This book also includes something I really enjoy, and that is actually the hyperspace ways, which includes the Kessel Run. And I'm pretty sure some of us can make it in a couple parsecs. That being said, my overall rating on this book is this is probably if you're a Star Wars fan, it's an amazing book. It's 2 thumbs up, 9 stars, all that other stuff for pretty much a great book. My only problem with it really is in the beginning, their layout, they talk about obligation and motivation before you really need to talk about it, in my opinion. In my opinion, they could have talked about it after they gave you characters and races. And that would have made more sense once you had your character going, okay, now I know what job class I am. Hey, let me look at the obligations and motivations and go. They give you many, many examples on how the dice mechanics actually work. So it's pretty simple when you actually look at they have pictures with the dice randomly set, and they explain what has occurred, and they tell you things that can happen. Something I didn't mention about the dice mechanics also is that your advantages and disadvantages can cause good and bad things to occur, so you can get enough advantages to actually create a critical strike or to activate a special ability on a weapon or your own special ability. I do recommend that you go to your local game store and try to get this book, especially if they give you deals, because this is a pricey book. It is very thick. This is 2 fingers easily thick book, very thick, but it is hardcover, which is always a bonus. Very glossy pages, but they are full color. The layout is very nice, very smooth, very easy to read. They give you everything you could possibly want, even right down to adventures, including details on the colonies, the inner rims, planets, law and society along the outer rim. They give you NPC villains, templates for it. Even give you a character sheet that you can scan and print out for your players. Fantasy Flight is also very good at supporting this line. They've already got, I believe, 5 to 6 physical books out. I own 4 of the physical books out. They've got several free PDFs that you can download for it. I believe they got some for the other line that's out right now, Age of Rebellion, which I will talk about in another video, and including the 4 physical books I have, or whichever ones in the future I will buy. As far as it goes, I hope that you guys do get this. I hope you do enjoy it, especially if you're a Star Wars fan. I think it's very much worth it. I think it blows Saga Edition out of the water. That, by hands down, Saga Edition is destroyed by this book. It even competes with D6 West End Games, which is the original Star Wars game that gave us most of our Star Wars ethos, including the temperature of the planet of Hoth. So, that being said, I hope you guys enjoy, and good gaming, everybody.